you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of what I try to always listen to. I think, you know, at the end of the day, like, just if notes are not in the same key, the only reason why I would say that's not good is if they need commercial viability. But if they don't need that, bro, go for it. Like, you know, give me those tritones all the time. Like, you know, so it's just, it depends what the goals are.
Yeah.
The further left you go.
I love that.
Yeah. The further left you go, where it's like all for the artist and that kind of experimentation thing, there is no right or wrong, period. Like, you know, you are 1,000% right. As long as you are confident about it and expresses what you want it to, you're 1,000% right.
Yeah.
I can't add any constructive criticism. You're 1,000% right. But if you want some commercial viability, there's some guidelines you probably should follow.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
All that to say, you know, what do you look for in an artist when you're considering, you know, working with them or not?
Honestly, I like to set expectations. They can't be fame hungry. This sounds kind of bad, but like, I can't work or really be around people who are incessantly insecure. I can't. Not that I'm like being judgy or anything like that. I just like personally, I can't fucking be around it. It's really personality wise. Like, for me, I really like working with artists who kind of treat themselves like small businesses too. And they're eager to do some of the uncool things because they think that's like innovative. I like that. If all somebody wants to do is just get signed, it's basically an immediate no from me. I think they're going to be a pain in the ass to work with. I need to know that they're invested in it. And the intentions are, you know, for longevity and self-improvement versus, you know, I want to make it. I even have a thing on my form that they have to fill out. And there is 3 options you can pick. And it's kind of like, what are your goals for the long term? One is like, this is a hobby. It's something I like to do on the weekends, blah, 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 or whatever. Then there's one that says, I want a long-term career in the music industry, you know, longevity, all that sort of stuff. And then there's a third one that says, I want to make it. And if anybody writes, I want to make it, they're immediately denied. Like, I can't.
I'm sure a lot of people choose that option.
Yep. And I haven't talked to any of them. So like, I never got on a call.
Nice. How are you so brave to, you know, you're not like very young, but you're not like at all super old or anything.
Yeah.
Like at your age, how do you have like the, you know, the courage to like turn away so many potential clients?
You know what is funny? Couple things. Firstly, I've been broke before. This is right now. I have more money in my account than I've ever had. Not in like a flex or anything. It's probably still bullshit compared to a lot of people, you know. But you know, I've been broke before. I'm not scared to be. You know, I've been worried about rent before. I'm not scared to be. All that being said, it actually does come down to a monetary decision as well. If somebody's going to be a pain in the ass or I'm not the right fit for them, it's going to waste their time and it's going to waste a lot of my time. And that's actually going to make me have to say no to opportunities I do want that long-term do result in, you know, both parties' happiness and, you know, matter-of-factly, like a growth in career and like actually building something that lasts.
Yeah.
You know, if you say yes to everything, you're fucked. Like my default is no, I'm not working with you.
So how do you get to that at the age of 26? Like, I'm 33 and I'm still pushing through that. You know what I mean?
You do it before you're ready to. I always, you know what's funny? I was talking to one of my buddies, Liam. He's one of my best friends. He lives in Brisbane. We're actually in a duo that is not launched yet, but we have like a record's worth of music that will probably launch at some point. But
well, let me know when you do.
Yeah, my man. But a big thing that like we had a call about the other day. I mean, it was a few weeks back, but I call it fuck it moments. And like, what a fuck it moment is it, firstly, it is extremely necessary to go through fuck it moments in your career. If you don't, you're screwed. Like it's over. I think it kind of goes back to like, you know, childhood trauma or some shit. for those of you listening, long story short, I lived in Chicago and then moved to Charlotte. And although I live in the city right now, when I first moved back in high school, I was out, way out in the suburbs, almost kind of in a rural area. Not rural, but like, lots of trees. Anyways, but, I was the one Jewish kid, and I was picked on a lot. And I got really depressed, and, I was going to therapy once a week when I was in high school, borderline suicidal. It was not a good time. And what I kind of figured out is like, I can work with angry or anxiety because there's energy there, but I can't work with depression. And what gives me depression is when people basically, make me feel like shit. I think everybody, you feel bad about yourself if people make you feel bad. So, for me, if I'm in a situation that I'm constantly feeling belittled, this is probably why I've never had a job. I've actually, fun fact, I've only been employed in music. I've never made $1 outside of music.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, like, from teaching, that was like my first gig, and then, kind of grows. But, when I get really depressed, I don't do anything. I just, it sucks. Like, and I have coping mechanisms to stay out of that. I will either, I kind of make sure that I sort of have anxiety or something, or, I get out of that situation and I'm just like, you know what? Fuck them. Like, I'm not dealing with that anymore. Like, let's move on. And you'd be very surprised. You may not believe this about yourself right now, but you'd be very surprised if you kind of just like throw yourself in the lion's den and just see what you're made of, you're always, there's this saying, I forgot who it was. I think it was like Cortez or something, Spanish conquistador. And,
Cortez the killer.
Yeah. He burned his ships, if you've ever heard of that. So basically it was like a couple hundred dudes, all Spanish conquistadors. And then it was like the whole Aztec nation or something, and super outnumbered or whatever. And he ordered to burn his ships so nobody could leave. And the reason being is because, like, we have to survive. This is actually our only option. I don't have a degree in like any, I could probably get like a business job just because like I've built an actual business in the music industry, which is like arguably one of the most difficult things in the world to do.
I'd stand by that.
Yeah. I mean, more for me, like I'm not the only mouth it feeds at this point. That is a very difficult thing to do. And, all that being said is like, you have to have energy somehow. So if you're starting to feel depressed, you only have a limited window of how quickly you can make a decision. And you're either going to get angry, get anxiety, or stay like really depressed. And that's when you kind of go into like that bottomless pit of, oh, I'm nothing. And I've had a bunch of fuck it moments. I just call these fuck it moments when you just turn that depression into anxiety or anger, mostly anger. I'm not talking about like anger, get like, beat up somebody, but it's just like a self-actualization that you're above the scenario, if that makes any sense. And like, for instance, I'll give you a fuck it moment.
It's like hitting the rock bottom, or like right before you're about to hit the rock bottom, like you bounce back.
You're just like, you know what? Like, I'm either going to figure this out or I'm just going to stay depressed. But like, I didn't get into music to just be miserable. I did this because it's cool. Like, I love it.
You love it.
But I'll give you a fuck it moment. I was teaching full time. I had a bunch of piano students, drum students. Basically, you pay me to, spend a half hour with your kid. I'll teach them something more than what, more in music than what they knew before. And I had this one time where I drove like 45 minutes to the student's house, and like I actually ditched a session that day because like I really needed the money. And I got there 5 minutes before the 5 minutes before the lesson. The mom called me and it was like, Matt's he's not, I don't think he's like in a great mood today. We can't go forward with the lesson. I'm sorry. And it's not like the kid wasn't sick. There was nothing wrong. They just decided they didn't want to have a lesson. I was like, okay, well, in my policy, like, I'm already here. You didn't cancel within a 48-hour window, so this is what's owed. She was like, I don't know if I agree to that. And so I was like, okay. And so I hung up the phone, and I was like really depressed. And I was like, man, like, I'm not shit. Like, this sucks. I can't even get paid. And I was like, wait a second. No, I am cool. Like, I do this shit. Like, I do this shit for a living. I'm worth something. I called her back, and I was like, hey, Mrs. I'm not gonna say her last name, but I was like, hey, blah, blah, blah. I just want to let you know, it's been great teaching Matt over the past couple years, or I think it was like a year and a half or something like that, maybe a year or whatever that I had him. And I was like, I will no longer be able to provide these music teaching services to your child. You'll have to let Matt know. I wish you the best. Have a great day. And so I called up all my other students, and I was like, listen, I am going to teach out of my studio now. I am not going to be able to come to you anymore. However, I will give you a discount if you want to go to my studio. And it was like, I was in the middle of the city because I had like a studio location. I was in between the two. I was doing some sessions. I had a shared studio space with one of my friends at the time. And then, I was teaching. And then I had some gigs, and like I played musicals and shit like that. Like in the pit orchestra, playing drums.
Yeah.
And
you're a working musician, man.
Yeah. I was just doing everything I could. Weddings. But yeah, I had a fuck it moment. And I was like, here are my terms. I set the precedent. I was like, these are my terms. If you want it, cool. If not, cool. You know what? A lot of the students left. And so you know what I had to do? I had to figure it the fuck out. And you have to put yourself in those high anxiety situations. Like there's no way around it. Like, unless you got like some sort of sugar daddy situation or sugar mommy situation or whatever, like you have to put yourself in these fight or flight scenarios. You have to learn to live in the chaos in order to grow and advance your career, because nobody's going to tell you that enough is enough.
Wow.
So that's
a great lesson.
Yeah. And like I'm not going to rant too long, but like I was on another, this was like a year and a half later or something like that. I was doing a lot of wedding gigs, and long story short, I was driving with the guy who was doing sound. This dude was a real piece of work, but just wasn't professional. And basically he told me to park somewhere before we left to play this gig in Kiowa Island, which is like 4 hours from here. It's on the coast, kind of by Charleston, South Carolina. Mm-hmm. And he told me to park in this parking lot for the night, and I'd be good. Well, it got towed, and we were far from my house. And on top of that, he took money out of my check so he could get a hotel for the night. And I was like, no, bro, that's not how it works. Like, I didn't agree to any of that. So, sorry. So we ended up driving the whole way back, and he straight up left me on like the side of a road at a fucking gas station pretty far from my house. And I had to call this was before Uber or Lyft. So I had to call my parents at like 3 or 4 in the morning to pick me up with all my drum gear. And I called up the guy that owns that company, Chris. He's a great guy, actually. The owner is a really great guy. But I called him up, and I was like, I'm done. Like, I can't. I need this paid for because he told me to park here. He ended up, he's a good guy. He helped me out and made it right. But that was my fuck it moment. So no more wedding gigs after that. And I've had these fuck it moments.
Wow.
Every year I have a couple fuck it moments with types of clients and stuff like that. There's just going to be times. And if you, the problem is that most artists, producers, people in the creative community, I don't know a single person in the music industry that doesn't have some sort of mental thing going on, either anxiety or depression or, some sort of trauma or whatever. Everybody pursues music because it's an escape, Nobody gets that serious about it. Like Jeff in accounting at Bank of America doesn't have real issues. Like, he's fine. But like
maybe he has other issues.
Yeah, sure. But we use this as a way to kind of meditate away from our problems or whatever. And the general thing is like to get depressed. So if you have a way to kind of just fight against that or whatever, it's extremely powerful, but just know you'll have anxiety. you know?
Wow.
But you can make a lot of progress just turning that into anxiety and just having